In this video, we're going to do a complete tutorial of momentum trading strategies software we're now calling MTS Velocity. All right, so I'm going to walk us through the entire platform from start to finish, even with just signing in. So if you're new, all you got to do is go here, click Create Account, and you're going to use the email that you signed up with, whether if that's Substack or momentumtradingstrategy.com. Just use that same email, and inside Create Account, all you got to do is select your password, and then hit Create Account, and then come back here and just log in. First tab you're going to see is the Market Overview Dashboard. It's not all, but it's a lot of the market indicators I use and I look at each week on the Big Picture Market Pulse. And so this doesn't replace that. This is just to give a quick snapshot. And I'm not going to go over, for those of you that don't understand, why I look at net new highs or breadth or the VIX and some of these indicators, that's going to be a whole separate video. Bottom line, this is just giving us that snapshot on what I write about each week. And if you're unsure how to get to that and can't find it on Substack or whatever, just click up here, Resources, and then click Big Picture, and it'll take you to the most recent article that's written, okay? And so that's all this is, and down here is a little chart, some of the key indexes we look at, NASDAQ 100, S&P 500, Russell 2000, the Dow, and the NASDAQ Composite, okay? And just it's giving you that general snapshot. This is kind of your full chart. You can look at stuff. You can expand it, minimize. We have indicators in here. But basically, this is just a snapshot. And so as we walk through these tabs, it's a lot of like what we talk about in the course. And a lot of what other big market wizards talk about is we're doing that top down, bottom up kind of analysis. So we're starting with big view of the market, how the market is doing, the market's health. That's why we have the M in CanSlim market, right? That's why so many market wizards read and followed the research done by Marty Zwag. And so this is kind of aligning us with the market, get a good understanding of the market environment we're in. Then we move to the RS dashboard, right? And so just, again, these tabs are taking us from big picture, satellite view, all the way down to our individual stock screening and planning trades, which is down to street level, right? It's kind of like zooming in with Google Earth. And so now we're getting a snapshot. Where is strength within this market, right? And we start with the major indexes. You can hit show all and kind of expand these. And these are kind of the major indexes that we look at. And then we have U.S. sectors, the 11 kind of U.S. sectors here to see how they're doing for strength. And then we have U.S. subsectors and industry groups. And if you keep going down too, we even have commodities, global markets, kind of currencies, crypto treasury bonds to see how that's all doing. And then we have kind of the mega and large cap stocks, just getting a viewpoint on all the stocks that are 100 billion in market cap or greater. How are they doing with relative strength and their performance? And so it's very generic, right? We just have the ticker, the name, the price, a little RS 1 month trend, and then this is our standard default view, okay? And the RS kind of benchmark is the S&P 500, the same as when we get into the scanner. So it's comparing all these tickers to the S&P 500 and then all the other kind of names in the group. So for the dashboard, it's not comparing it all to every stock in the market. For each section, because we're just talking about indexes, what we're doing is we're comparing the index. So we're comparing, let's just say, NASDAQ 100 to the S&P 500 and then all the other index tickers here within this section, okay? If you want to compare it to all of the other tickers within this dashboard, just go to columns here, rank against entire dashboard, okay? And this isn't, we're going to get into the RS scanner about comparing our tickers to all the stocks kind of in the universe, but this is, again, just a snapshot of where strength is in the market. Next, I have the ability to look to have your own custom columns, right? So say you're like, hey, we started a new uptrend July 29th when we established those lows, and I want to see what's performing since that kind of change in the market. So you can click here, anchor date within columns, and set a date. And you can have the RS and the performance, or you could just do RS, whatever you want it to do. And you can add your custom label. If you didn't want to do a date, you can also click end back, and you can set, by days, weeks, or months you choose. For example, there's not a 2-month RS. Say you wanted to see the performance on a 2-month. You just put 2 and months, and then add the time frame. For this example, we're going to go off of the lows, since we're kind of in a new uptrend since that date. And before, it would have, what I was tracking a lot of the last uptrend that we entered, we set the lows around March 30th, right after the Iran conflict kind of breakdown below the 200-day. And once we had that big gap up in early April and we got back above those key moving averages, right, it really confirmed that uptrend. So I would just have the anchor date. Back then, for April, May, and into early June, I was really looking at a lot of RS from that new uptrend, right? But since, I'm filming this video in August 15th, so we're going to basically look back to July 29th for right now. Add that time frame, and you can drag and drop these too, and it'll save. So next time you log in, it'll be however you want it to look. So you decide. If you, like, for example, you don't care about the day, just, I got to see why that's not working. But normally, like in the RS scanner, you can just right-click on the date, and probably by the time you watch this video, I'll have it fixed. And you can just click hide, and it'll get rid of, I think in here, it's in the drop-down. Let's see here. I guess they don't have, yep, right here, day. So just unclick that. And I'll make it easier. I'm going to have the right-click option. I actually don't like that we can't just right-click and hide the column quickly. All right, so that kind of gives you an idea. And then, look, you can sort. So now I want to go off of RS performance. Doesn't really matter. And it will sort everything, ascending or descending. And what is it? Look at how what this tells us, right? It tells me, wow, since that new uptrend, it's the NASDAQ 100, the Russell 1000 growth, the NASDAQ composite, the Russell 2000 growth, and even the NASDAQ 100 equal weight. The top 5 major indexes are growth. That's good for us because we're momentum growth stock, traders and investors. That's where we want to be. And then we do the same thing. We come down to sectors, and we look technology. And where was technology when the market was breaking down or consolidating? It was almost dead last, or it was towards the bottom of the pack. So this confirms that we're in an environment that favors our type of trading. And then you go down to go down here and go into subsectors, industry groups. You can do the same thing. Computer memory, some of the biggest gains, semiconductors. And these were what were leading in April, May, and into early June before we had kind of that consolidation and that correction. This is what was leading. But we have some new areas, right? Oil's still performing. Materials are kind of back. We haven't really seen them leading since, they kind of broke down earlier in the year. But the big winners, right, for a lot of 2024 and 2025. AI, robotics, software, etc. So this just shows you, there's a lot you could do to get a good snapshot. And that's all this is meant to do. If you also up here updated last 17 hours ago, it's cash just because this is synced to a different live feed on the market. So you could just click refresh and it will, it's a little slow. It'll refresh everything. You can kind of mess around while it does that. But also we have a show chart feature. So you click here, show chart. And now as you kind of click through, you can kind of look at the chart. And now you can just hit the space bar and it will move through everything while you glance at the chart. It'll even go further down, and it'll move everything so that you don't have to. You can stay fixated on the chart and try to find, kind of do a little chart review on all the, indexes, sectors, and industry groups. And then you can see here after the refresh, it says updated just now. So, and then if you want to export this data, you can export it. And you can even zoom the chart out and kind of, mess around with different indicators. So yeah, this is pretty much RS dashboard. That's most of the functionality here. There's really not much else to show. But yeah, if, for example, back when XLK was really running, you could expand the chart. You can look at indicators. You can put your ATR MA extension. There's the settings. We'll get more to charts in a little bit. But you can get a view. Wow, like in real time, you would notice, man, we're really extended from the 50-day. And it kind of gave us that warning that we were going to go into, this correction right here. All right, so let's now dive. That's pretty much everything for the RS dashboard, just trying to give us an idea of where to look. Now let's go into the RS scanner. And now within the RS scanner, this is the power of the tool. Probably this is what I built this for. Everything else is a nice to have. This is where you get your money's worth. Now we have stocks, ETFs, crypto. We're going to primarily be focused on this tutorial on stocks, and I'll briefly go through the other two tabs. Now we're going to go over everything. So this is going to be kind of long, so let's dive right in. First thing I want to highlight is you see up here RS benchmark and SPY, and then the universe 3,328 stocks, which that number will slightly change daily. So let me explain this. So what this scanner does is it compares every ticker in there. Out of all these stocks, it compares it to the benchmark, which is the S&P 500. And then it compares it to all the other stocks in this universe, 3,328. Now, in the back end of this software, I do have every single stock in the market, no different than TradingView. So, and that is a lot more, right? So, for example, if you go to TradingView or you go to any major platform and you want to see all the stocks, just in the stock market. I'm not even talking ETFs. But if you go to their stock screen, you're going to look at all stocks, you'll see over 14,000 stocks. Well, this screener has that in the background too, right? But, I took out OTC, penny stocks. And there's 7,400 and something penny stocks, right? We removed them. This screener just wants to focus on the NASDAQ, NYSE ARCA stocks. And if you only look at those names, that's 6,646 stocks, changes kind of slightly daily. And that's where we're starting. Again, we're not even talking about ETFs. That's where we're starting. And so from that 6,000 stocks, we then add a few filters automatically. We only want to look at stocks that are $5 or greater, that have a market cap of 100 million or greater, and have an average volume of 100,000 over the last 30-day period. And that's the minimum filter. And when you do that, that's what takes us down to this 3,328. And why do I do that? Is because I wanted to do something with my relative strength rating that was even more selective than what IBD and market search, meaning I'm rating RS just off of my tradable universe now. So, for example, sometimes you'll see I'm looking at a 1 year relative strength, and I'm looking at market surge or another platform's 1 year relative strength, and they may have a stock that has an 80, but in my platform, maybe it's in the 70s, maybe even high 60s, because they're comparing against all the stocks in the universe. So when I have an RS of 80 or higher, it tends to be a much stronger performer than you might see, just because I'm getting rid of the non-tradable stuff. So I would argue if you have an RS of a minimum of 80 or higher, it's a lot stronger. It might even show stronger on those other platforms. Now, I do trade. I tend to be trading stocks with a market cap of $1 billion or higher, and average volume at least $1 million. Like I'm looking for those real liquid names, right? And I'll show you where you can add that. But I wanted to, so this filter basically, that's where you see the 3,328. And if you think like, oh, it didn't, I would have missed some names. No, you wouldn't. I mean, let's just, I'll even just get rid of RS for now and just look at performance. I mean, you still have some of the biggest names of the year. AXTI, almost 4,000%, ScanDisk, 3,000%, Wolf. I mean, you still are going to get in this platform a lot of the biggest names, MU, Light, that everyone's been talking about, AHR, WDC, STX, so you're not missing anything. We're really just getting rid of the crap. All right, so with that being said, now we're going to get into this main bar here, which is relative strength stock screening. Now, a lot of other platforms, they just have standard is the 1 year. So whenever you read how to make money with stocks, it's a 1 year RS really that he's looking at. And then Market Surge, for example, has a 3 and 6 month now. But that's it. So when I originally created this, it was, I wanted a 1 month RS. But now this platform has all time frames, but also custom date. So you can even set in there your date. Like I want to go from the lows. And I want to see what's the highest relative strength from the lows. And there it is. You'll see, and you can come down here and you can sort it by ascending, descending, And so now you even have your own custom date. Set a date on how you want the RS, okay? But the standard way, if you're new, the standard RS that a lot of people talk about and a lot of people follow, it's the 1 year time frame. So Minervini, David Ryan, William O'Neill, Dan Zanger, they're looking at a 1 year relative strength, okay? If you read Christian Kwalamagi and you're more a short-term swing trader, he talks about looking for the biggest performing stocks on the 1 month, the 3 month, the 6 month time frame, right? So you could use those time frames, That's going to give you your biggest performers over that time period. All right, so and then that's what primary time frame scan zone, okay, is basically doing. Is it's saying based on whatever you're ranking it by, it's going to base it off that time frame, okay? And you could set the minimum RS by typing it in here. You could just put in a number, or you can use this little drag feature. But it's all going to kind of give you the same thing. Now, scan modes. Let's go into other scan modes. We have all time frames. And so this is basically saying, hey, I want to see stocks that have, a 70 or higher. And across all time frames. And that's what that gives you. Accelerating. You're basically saying, I want to see, let me reset this. I want to see with accelerating the stocks that went from doing poorly to high performance, right? And you can still change how you want to rank that by. Do you want to see it still on the 1 month? So you want to see things that went from really bad to really good. And you're looking at the 1 month or even the week or even the 3 month, okay? And then decelerating is the opposite. We want to see what has been doing really well and what is, so we would have to change, let's change this to 50. What is doing really well and what is decreasing, Okay, and you can see that here. And then you could adjust the RS gap too, like how you want the RS gap. But that generally is going to show you what's weakening. All right, so after decelerating, we have weighted RS. So this is a kind of just a proprietary way that I'm weighting it across multiple time frames, like the 1 month, 3 months, 6 month, and 1 year, and getting like a blended RS based on these multiple time frames, right? Weighting it kind of slightly, different. It's not just an even 1 year RS. All right, so that's pretty much the different scan modes. If you're just starting out, honestly, if you're a real short-term swing trader, you're maybe looking at primary time frames, the 1, 3, and 6 month. And, for all swing traders and, position traders, you really can't go wrong with a 1 year RS, okay? From there, we have, the reset button, self-explanatory. So if you ever have filters and you want to start from scratch, just hit reset. Oh, VARs. I'm going to talk about this real quick. I don't use this. Some requested it and have use it. But it's definitely none of the legendary traders that I've kind of learned from that no one I really knows or know uses this. This is basically taking each stock's benchmark relative return, by its 14-day ATR percentage, and then it ranks the percentile 1 to 99, and the lower ATR percentage equals, a higher rank when returns are equal. So it's basically if you're looking for higher performing names that are less volatile, you can use VARs. If you just click this button, it'll change the relative strength, and it'll give you different names because of that as well, of course. All right, but I don't recommend this for most people. Like, we're growth momentum traders. Like, we learn to deal with some volatility, and if we're really looking for performance, I wouldn't recommend using this feature, but it's there for those that want it. Now we have, before I get into advanced filters, on the far right we have ticker lookup. Basically, any just random name you want to look up. Like, I want to look up NVIDIA. It's not in your scan, but you're just curious how it's performing. I want to look up light. And so that's all this is, and it'll show you the results based on, and we'll get to it, your layout that you can custom make this layout. We'll get to that. So that's that. Now let's get into advanced filters. Now, just like Market Surge and IBD, where you can build your own filters and screens, that's where we start from. So this will always come into play for mostly with these where we're running relative strength, but now we want to add other things. So this advanced filter window will pop up, show the filters, and now we could do even more. Like, say I want to look up, a threshold. I didn't like that all time frames includes, the weekly or the monthly, and I just want to look up multi-time frame on 3, 6, and 1 year, and I want the minimum threshold to be 70, or I want it to be 80, and that'll give me 193 stocks that have an 80 or higher RS across all 3 time frames. Okay, and then we have relative strength min and max, where basically you can set the minimum and the max, or just the minimum RS for different time frames. And then we have custom look back RS, where you can set your RS just like the RS dashboard by days, weeks, months, and select the look back and set the minimum. So, say I want to do same thing we've been talking about, just like it's very similar to what you can do ranked by the custom RS look back. So you could do that in here. And then we have, like I was saying, the minimum filter does $5 stock, and you can, say you want to be more aligned with William O'Neill, where he's only looking at stocks that are $10. And so we got that. And if you look back, that'll take your, instead of your 3,328 stocks in your universe, brings it down to 2,800, right? You also can say you only want to look at NASDAQ stocks, or you only want to look at NYSE. You can do all that as well. Movers. This is just, I want to know all the stocks that have moved 5% today, or pre-market. I want to see all the stocks that are moving up at least 3-4%. Performance ranges, you're basically saying, hey, I want to see stocks that over the last month have gone up, 30%. Right? There you go, 164 names. You can even add your same thing with RS. You can add your performance based on, look back of whatever day, week, or month period, and or a from date. You can adjust the market cap. So it's, I'm looking at a lot of the stocks I'm looking at, have at least $1 billion market cap. You can adjust the float in here. Now we're going to IPO date. Say you want to look at all the stocks that have IPO'd in the last 10 years. You can set a from date and just leave 2 blank and go back to, 2016. Or say you want to see since this bull market started in late 2022, early 2023, you can set that in there. And it'll show you all your IPOs. Volume. This is now where you can set, I want to see all this, you can do custom volume. So before you get into this is, if you want to just keep it simple, like TradingView and a lot of other platforms, just click simple volume filters. And you can just click in here. I want stocks with an average volume of 1 million, There you go. And not just, I forgot to bring this up, anything you put inside here will automatically show up down on the RS scanner. See how now we have average volume 30 days down here? So you can see it in the scanner results. Now, if you don't want to see that and you would basically, let me leave advanced filters real quick. Go to data columns and layouts, and we'll get to this, and you can lock it. Lock my RS scanner so that any screen you set will be active, but it won't show down here in the results. So I'm going to lock it real quick to show you how that works. And I'm going to go back to volume. We have our million average 30-day volume, and you don't see it down here in the scanner now. All right, sorry about that. My wife texted me, and messages started popping on my screen, so I'm not super savvy with figuring out how to shut that off. All right, let's get back into it. So you see now that the filter, the volume filter, right, isn't showing up down there, and that's because that's what we wanted. But if you want it to show up, turn this off. Lock my RS scanner columns, and now you'll see the volumes here, right? And you can drag and set up however you want. I like to have my volume after price. All right, let's get back to advanced filters. So we just went through how you could do that with just simple volume, right? We also have where you can kind of get more advanced than these kind of preset volume simple filters. And you can deal with volume, average volume, relative volume, dollar volume, volume change. You can set the time frame, the look back window, the ending anchor date, minimum max. So a lot of functionality with volume. For example, you're a shorter term, more price action trader. You're gonna want to use these a lot more, basically. Or you want to be able to see, we're looking at our can slim type stuff, but you're looking for stocks that were up big on volume. So maybe you're looking at RVol today was up, 2, or you want to look at percentages, volume change percentage, and you want to look for stocks that are up 100% in volume or 50% in volume. You can set that in here. Fundamentals. So now we have, revenue quarter, year-over-year percentage. That's basically, we're looking at sales, right? And the way we do it is the same as IBD, is because of some areas of the market are seasonal, we're looking at the quarter growth rate. It's the quarter. So if it says 20% and it's last quarter, it's comparing it not off the previous quarter, but off the same quarter the prior year, right? Because, you have industries like retail and stuff that you want to that's how you get rid of that seasonality. I will have in here a way to where you can click and change whether you want to compare just off the prior quarter or you want the standard kind of William O'Neill IBD type, comparing it off the same quarter the prior year. And so we have that. You can set, say, 20%, and I want minimum of a 20% for earnings growth, sales growth, and you scroll down here and you'll see it down in the scanner, right? And so now what is this doing? We're basically saying I want to see stocks over the last year that have a minimum RS of 80 and have sales on the most recent quarter 20%, up 20% in growth, and earnings, right? And then you can hide this box and come down here, and it's going to show you there's 223 stocks that meet that criteria. And again, you can set this up how you want. Now, say this is a very simple scan. Say you want to save this. I know I haven't finished advanced filters. That's where we'll go into data columns and layouts next. And you'll be able to save your setup so that you say you want to keep this layout. Even when you run other scans, you want to see this. You always want to see sales and earnings, even if your filter is volume. It has nothing to do with sales. Okay. But let's continue here with advanced filters. Let's clear this out. So we've made it through fundamentals. We now have volatility, ADR, very similar to the volume filter. We have simple volatility filters like what's the average daily range percentage, range. You can set the minimum that you want to look at. You can look at ATR on the 1 day, the 1 week, the 1 month. But say you want more than that. That's where you click this. And again, we have ATR percentage, ADR. You can select the time frame, the look back window, or do your own custom look back window. Your ending anchor if it's today, or you say you want to do a week ago, min, max, and you can add multiple here. You can add another slot. So, and then you can save it as a preset, so you don't need to do this every time. Next, we have distance from highs, so the percentage, that the stock is from its 52-week high or all-time high. And let's go to verse benchmark. Now, you click enable here. This is where you can compare your ticker with the industry group, the sector. You can even add custom time frames, right? And you can select as well, what the benchmark you want to compare to, or you can even type it in. So, and you can even select just the actual industry groups. So you can scroll through here, and this is basically you saying, I want to compare versus those items, right? Because if let's just use, you're a semiconductor stock and it's not beating the industry group semiconductors, then why are we in the name? We should be in the leader and the names within that are beating the performance of the semiconductor group or the ETF SOXX or SMH, right? And then you also have where you can do the rate of change versus the benchmark and show percentile. So this is a really powerful feature. I'm going to show more of it a little bit later, but you click this and you'll notice down here you'll see like MU versus its own industry group, right? It'll show you the percentage that it's beating it. So it'll take the percentage growth, of MU over the year, and kind of subtract it off of what was the growth of the semiconductor industry group. And then this is the difference, right? So it was greatly outperforming, right? And I don't have anything in this search, but you'll see if it's not outperforming, you'll see it negative in red. So like, for example, Quantum Corp versus its own industry group over the last year is underperforming. Now let's sector and industry group. I'm going to cover both these. Basically, say you want to exclude, like I want to exclude biotechs. Like some people just don't like trading biotechs. And so you could scroll through this list and look for biotech right here. And instead of include, you can exclude. Or say in your scan results, you only want to include a few areas of the market. Like I only want to look at tech, right? And so right now, based on this 1 year RS screen, we got 656 names, but I only want to look at electronic technology. Boom, you got 118. I only want to look at energy minerals, 19. I only want to look at finance names, 43. So you got that. Now let's go to MTS filters. This is kind of our proprietary filters. No, very similar to how Market Surge and IBD has theirs. It's not exactly the same, but it's kind of in spirit very similar to theirs. So the first drop down is MTSRS time frame. That's because I added the feature to the standard for the MTS score is the 1 year. Just like the composite rating. Think of it as similar to the composite rating for IBD. But sometimes people want to break it up to different time frames. And I am going to have the ability to where you can even select from a custom date like we have everywhere else. But right now, just say let's just keep the 1 year to keep it simple. And if you say 90, you're basically saying, I only want to look at stocks with an MTS score of 90, right? And so there we go. Out of the 3,000 stocks, we got 224. And what does this look at? It basically looks at, it's very CAN-SLIM driven. So it's looking at relative strength. Then it's looking at the quality score. And the quality score is sales, but also ROE and pre-tax margins, right? That is all talked about in William O'Neill's book, How to Make Money with Stocks. Then we're also looking at industry group strength. And then we're looking at the proximity of the stock's price to its 52-week high. And then it's basically giving that a score, and it's finding the best names in the market based on all that criteria. Again, very similar to the composite score of IBD. EPS rating is looking at the last 3 quarters, right, of growth, and it's kind of weighting them to find, hey, what stocks have the best earnings? Quality score, again, is the sales plus kind of the profitability, like the margins, what has the best quality of that, or just sales. Say I'm like, hey, I don't really care because I'm a growth stock guy. And sometimes, we notice a name could have big sales and it could have not the best earnings and it could have not the best profitability yet, but it's got the massive sales. I just want to find the top sales names, right? And then profit rating. I just want to see some of the most profitable. So sometimes you can mirror these up with one another, or you could just do the MTS score. And then we have the AD rating, right? So you want to see, and you have these little icons here that'll tell you a little bit about each. So the AD rating right here measures whether a stock is under net buying or selling pressure. So obviously A and B is going to be solid names. C's, going to be about average, and then D and E kind of it's, we got more selling pressure in there. Now our trend moving averages. So we talk a lot in the course about a lot like Minervini has this technical trend template. Mine's, basically I want to be in stocks that are above their 200-day and above the 50-day. So price is above those two, but I also want to see the 50-day is layered nicely above the 200-day. And so there's my technical trend template. And then I also want to see price above, say, short-term moving average, like the 20. So right there, I'm already weeding out a lot of stuff that, technically is not what we want to see, even if it has big earnings and sales, right? And if you're a trader, listen, this platform is super powerful even if you don't care about fundamentals at all, okay? I'm telling you, if you're that type of trader, you still want to be in high relative strength names. That's like one of your top filters. And then you're still looking at technical trend template. Like you want price to be above these key moving averages, right? And you want volume. You want massive volume kind of coming in through breakouts. And so these filters all work even if you're a non-fundamental guy. You know, I'm a techno fundamentalist. I always place price and even probably the technicals over fundamentals, but I just like to kind of put the two together. Other fundamental filters we have, what I like about this is in William O'Neill's book, he says he wants a stock to have 17% or higher in ROE. But if it doesn't, he then looks to the margins. And if the margins are strong, you know, and strong margins in different industry groups can mean different figures. But if it's strong pre-tax margins, he's okay with the ROE being low. And so that's where you could set right here. It says passes if ROE or pre-tax margins is great. And you can kind of set this. So I could set like, hey, I want to see stocks that have at least a 15 ROE. But if it doesn't, it needs to at least have, you know, 20% margins. And you could see right here, it brought us down to 211 names. And I'm just going to click this. Okay, there we go. And you see again, look, they're showing up. Here's the ROE. Here's the pre-tax margins. Now let's fund ownership. So I'm going to show this side panel here. Let me just click on a random name, MU for right now. I'm going to shut off the chart, the watch list. These side panels, I'm going to leave them up. Okay, so you see here in the side panels, one that I look up a lot is fund ownership. You see this far right-hand side, fund ownership, shows the ticker name, and it shows the number of funds each quarter getting reported. This is what I want to see, right? So I'm looking at big earnings, big sales, high relative strength, good price action, good technical trend template, and then boom, we have the funds increasing in the name quarter over quarter. If you want to screen for that, not just look at it, you can do that here. Okay, so you can look for, this can do fund count growth, which is just the number of funds, or you can go to here, fund count change percentage. And you'll see down here on the screener that a couple names would fall off. If I put minimum change is 10%, some fell off. MU stayed because, look, it had greater than 10%. And that covers what we have right now for advanced filters. A lot more coming. We're constantly building this out. But honestly, if you can't find success with this right here, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Honestly, most of this I don't even use. And most of this O'Neill and Minervini and them don't even use. What do they use? Just flip open the book, take the momentum trading strategy course where I kind of give you right to the point what they follow, right? Or just look at some of my posts on CanSlim, and they look for big earnings and sales. So you could do it yourself, or I'm about to show you how I have it preset for you on these preset screens. So you're looking at, 20% growth in earnings last quarter annually is a nice to have, if it's growing, 25% over the last 3 years is what O'Neill talks about. Big sales, if it doesn't have the big sales, he wants to see that sales are starting to accelerate and grow and improve. So say you're looking for sales at 20%. He wants to see that ROE or margins look good. And so, he's looking for a lot of those basic characteristics are all in here. Basically, I'm not missing anything that O'Neill talks about in his book. Now, you don't want to have to do that manually, right? Well, one, I do want to highlight before I move on. Inside advanced filters, let's just click some things. I want to have, I want to look at stocks with an MTS of score of 90 or above, and I want a technical trend template, right? And I want the RS on the 1 year to be 80 or higher, right? So I have all three of that in there, even though the MTS kind of already does that with the RS. I can now click Save, and I could just title it like my MTS screen. Whatever, hit OK. Now I want to kind of hide this because it's taking up too much real estate. You can see what's selected here, right? Yep, and you can even see that everything's kind of checked in there. And there it is. So basically, I don't have to log in. So I can even reset this, right? My screen's back to normal. I can just go to My Screens now, and there it is, MTS screen. Boom, automatically turns it on for you. So you don't have to go back into advanced filters and do this every time. Now let's talk about what are these little buttons here. These are already kind of screens that I've used for years with IBD. I'm talking 15 plus years since it was old Market Smith. Now it's called Market Surge, but it's the same screens I've been running for years that still work, right? And this Leaders Can Slim one is pretty much, not exactly, but it's close to the William O'Neill screen inside their platforms. And I click this, and I'm looking for stocks, right, with a minimum RS on the 1 year of 80, price of 10, sales and earnings are at least 20% growth. It's within 15% of the 52-week high, and it has 5 funds. Shows me all that fund count, shows me everything on my screen here, right? And you'll see a lot of big names I've been mentioning recently, and I can sort it however I want. Like I want to look over whatever time frame. You can do that. And so that's what these are. So I want to look at starting from the biggest sales, or I just want to look at the biggest growth over the last month. I want to look at the biggest earnings names. Twilio, it's been a name I've been kind of watching. Click on the chart, look at that. The sidebar should update here. You have all your side panel. We'll get to that. All right, so that's what these scans kind of do for you, okay, is it's already preset. Sometimes I like to just look at big earnings, big sales, because maybe I want to see some names to put on my watch list that are maybe a little further than that 15% from highs. Big earnings, big sales, and it'll show me like ScanDisk, some other big names, PBF, whatever. And I can kind of sort this however I want. Super performers, kind of the same thing, 20%, 25%, has some annual figures, technical trend template. So these are names that are doing great, not just quarterly, but even annually, and they have the trend template kind of thrown in there. Today's market movers, what's moving today. And it'll also say, nothing shows up because the market's closed. It's the weekend when I film this. But this is, during market hours, 9:30 to 4 Eastern, when the market's open. This will show you the names that are all moving 4% or more. Once the market closes, it'll still show up until a certain point. I think because even with after hours, it'll still show you. It'll clear out like this on the weekend. But then it'll be yesterday's market movers. So yesterday's market movers was Friday's results. Basically, I'm filming this on Saturday. And it's all the names that went up 4% or more. So 63 names in this scanner that are showing us that. Eaton's been a name I've been watching for a while. Had earnings. Huge gap up. If you're watching this, watch Eaton. Eaton's been a name I've been talking about and monitoring for some time. All right, so that's what yesterday's movers are. Pre-market movers is morning time. What's moving, from 4 a.m. is when it opens till 9:30. what's moving. And it doesn't show anything now, but this extended hours will show you not just pre-market, but even after market until the market, finally closes. I think it's 8 p.m. or whatever. But the after and pre-market hours price will show here, extended hours, and the percentage change, okay? And then also with today's or pre-market movers, not pre-market, today's market movers, you'll also see change percent will show up. And that's different than percent daily, because percent daily is off of closing prices, right? So if you're in the middle of the day, this is really showing you yesterday's move. Once the market closes, today's change percent should mirror percentage one day. Net 52-week high list, hey, what stocks are making net 52-week highs? Very important. Technical trend template, there you go. Then we have show more. We have a more strict leaders can slim that has all this annual metrics in there as well. Episodic pivots, you really want to highlight names, right, that are gapping up 10% or more, and then you can look, what's the news catalyst? Is there a catalyst driving it? And all that. So we have a high type flags screen, upcoming earnings, shows you all the next week of earnings, what's coming up. All right, and that's it for right now. I'm going to build out a lot more. I'm trying to get a VCP scan in there and some more stuff. So, but that's what we got right now. And then, of course, again, create your own screens, right, and save them. Like in here, it'll show up my screens. One more thing, you'll see here, more screens. These are a lot of the Market Surge IBD screens that I've been using for years. You have the David Ryan Ant screen, bases that are forming, composite ratings, growth 250, IBD 50, the IBD Big 20. You have the Minervini trend templates, an RS Line blue dot, weekly new high report, and the William O'Neill screen. So you have those screens in here. Also, we have, let's see here, watch list screens. So say you want to screen, run a screen up here, but you want it to be, I don't have a watch list built out. We'll build one while we're going, because this is the demo account. We want to build in here our watch list, and you can run a screen just on your watch list. So you're wondering, hey, what's moving today or yesterday, right, from my watch list? And you can click on your watch list. You can even go into the subgroups, like you have your stocks grouped by CanSlim names or technical names. Say you do both. You have an account for fundamental growth, CanSlim, William O'Neill, and you're more of a position trader with that account. And then you have a swing trading technicals only, where you just look at price and momentum kind of indicators, right? You can do that, and you can break up with subgroups. Or say you break your subgroups into industry groups, however you want to do it. And you can run your screens just on that. All right, now we're going to move into data columns layout. Setting this up, a lot of the screenshots I'll see is not this. This is the default mode, right? I have my own way I like to look at my scanner results for everything. And, you depending on how you trade, you probably have a way you would like it. So click on here, data columns and layouts. And now you can select everything in here and even create custom things that you want to see in the columns. So you could do all that. So, for example, I'm going to set one up right now just to kind of show you. I want to see the industry group. I want to see on my screen average volume. I want to add, what else? I'm going to add big earnings, big sales. So I'm going to add the quarterly revenue, quarterly. I'm going to do revenue. I'm not going to, where else? It's a lot of stuff. Even I get kind of lost looking at all this stuff sometimes when I'm setting everything up. EPS right here. I'm going to look at basically the William O'Neill stuff I like to look at. I also like to throw in ROE. Some people don't really care about that. Here's my pre-tax margins. And I'm going to throw in ROE. Where is ROE? Right here. All right, I'm just going to start with that for right now. Sometimes I like to add some other stuff. Now I'm going to save it. Save current, my setup. Hit OK. Oh, it already exists. Must have already done this before. We'll just say template. All right, I'm going to set this as default. So every time I log in, this is going to show up, right? And I'm going to lock it because I'm going to run screens that unless I want to see what that's showing, I don't care. I already know what it's being screened for, but I'm going to lock it. All right, here we go. Now I want to drag and set it up how I want. So I'm going to put my volume after price. I'm going to put, and there's no right or wrong answer to this. This is just your personal preference, what your eye gets used to looking at quickly. All right, so this is what I'm going to do. I want to look at price, volume, my earnings, sales, pre-tax margins, ROE, and then I want to see this. Oh, and then I want to add one more thing. I want to see the performance or the RS. I'm going to do performance from the lows. Okay, I have that in there. And now I'm going to save this. I'm going to update. All right, so I'm going to hit update. It shows that it's saved. Click out of this. And let me see here. Performance. I like performance to go here. I put 06. I have the chart data going back that far, but it must not be in the scanner. Let's go back to this. And I have to fix. Going back to 2026. All right, update. All right, now once you set this up once, you can refresh your screen, log out. Like, look, let's sign out. Sign back in. Go to our scanner. It's still there. All right. So now I have the layout that I want. Okay, and why is this useful? Because then when I run, my big earnings and sales screen, right? This is what I like to look at. I'm looking for stocks with big earnings and sales on the 1-year RS has a 90 or higher. But then I want to look within that. I want to sort performance from July 29th, 2026, the start of the new low. What are the biggest performing stocks since then? Names we've been talking about, right? AXTI, AHR. So, and I can kind of go through my list here. So there's a lot more, but basically that's how you set up everything. And again, this bottom part is adding your custom RS by end back date or your end back, whether you want weeks, whatever. And you can do that for performance RS. You can even do that for industry group RS, sector RS. So, also, one last thing. Expanded chart. So we're going to show this next. Say you want this, you see this layout here in the scanner result. You want that to be this way, but you have more columns you want to add. But on the scanner, it would get too bunched up, right? You would have to use this scroll over and you wouldn't be able to see it. But say on the expanded chart, when we expand to the full screen, you want to see other data. You can save your expanded chart setup here differently than the scanner. I don't even know what this is, but we'll just use this setup, all right? And then now when you click on a chart, we're going to click on AXTI. We see it here in the scanner, right? But then, and I guess my setup is similar. See how it's different? Industry group, MTS score, that's not there. Basically, when you expand the chart, you'll see it at the bottom as well. And see all this extra space on the right-hand side? You can just keep filling that out. Even if it goes past that, you'll get a little slider. So that is that. So that's most of data columns layouts. Oh, also there's presets here. So if you're just messing around, you saw how I was getting lost with all this stuff. You can click on just the default. It'll go back to the original mode we just, when you first log in, that we started with. Fundamentals, it'll give you the fundamentals, pull it up for you. MTS filters, you can click that and it'll automatically bring it up. Industry groups, so you can kind of go through those. They're kind of preset up, and your saved ones go here, and you can create as many as you want. And again, this is for the expanded chart, how you want it to look. What you have to do though is you have to build out the presets, and then you can select which ones for the expanded chart. Oh, verse, yeah, one of my favorite ones, and also verse benchmark. You can select what you want to see. So I want to compare. Over the last month, I want to compare it to QQQ, or the NASDAQ 100, or the NASDAQ Composite. And since my screen is locked, I got to unlock it so you guys can see it. If you scroll over, look, it's telling me AXTI is outperforming the NASDAQ Composite on the 1 month by 44.39%. SNDK, though, isn't. Look, SNDK is still down 6% compared to NASDAQ Composite's performance since on the 1 month. So I do need to add, you can add verse benchmark, custom timeframes too. I'm forgetting all the stuff I'm adding. And it also just shows you that you don't need to use all this stuff to find success. You can keep it simple. But this is more for the power users. We do have people, believe it or not. That's the great thing about momentum trading strategy since I started. We have such a wide range of traders. We got brand new traders that probably have no idea what I'm talking about right now on here. And then we got people that have been doing this a while but haven't really found consistency and success yet. And then we have people that are professionals. I can't even believe they follow my account or message me, and they're better traders than me. So there's 20, 30-year veterans. There's people that have been trading 10 years that are, U.S. investing champions that are using this software and following me. And even I'm kind of humbled by it. Like, why are they? So I'm just saying this is meant to be simple for the beginner, but also the power of all the other powerful platforms for the super users. All right, so we covered data columns. We're going to leave it up the way it is. Now you have these buttons here. You have chart. You just click on chart, pulls the chart up. And this is just a quick chart for when you're screening, right? So now we're running our screen. Let's do it. Big earnings and sales, right? That's our screen. We want to kind of sort it down here for the biggest performers over, since the lows. We're starting with AXTI, and we have the chart up. I just hit spacebar or the down arrow, and this is how I do my chart review. And I just go through my names. And when I want to stop review, I can. Now, when I'm doing this chart review, what else do I look at? Hold on, let me fix one thing. All right, pull my side panels up. Some of these side panels, like when I'm like I don't always look at surprises. I'm not really looking at the historical RS right now. Really, I like to look at these three together. So this is how I kind of set it up, right? Is I kind of uncheck the things I'm not really looking at right now. Like I'll come back and look at these other panels. All right, so now I'm clicking through, right? I'm just skimming through. I'm hitting the down arrow bar, and I'm looking at these side windows, and I'm looking at the earnings change, the sales, the fund ownership, whether it passed my general kind of leaders canceling checklist here. And this is how I'm doing my quick review. And if I see a name that I want to come back to, like, maybe I'm like, I want to come back to this name. I kind of like how, its action. Maybe I add it to a watch list. I hit watch here, this little blue button, watch. And if I want to add it right here to a subcategory that I have it in, like it's an oil and gas name, say I had oil and gas, boom, I'll add it there. Or I can add that later when we go over the watch list tab. And so, again, as we continue, you can, instead of just clicking each individual ticker to pull the chart up, you just hit the down arrow or the space bar. All right. And that's kind of how we kind of go through. It'll go through. The benefit of this, like, it'll go to where you can't even see the screen, which is nice. So you can just keep going through your names. All right. So that's chart. That's kind of showing you the panels, watch list. As you add names to the watch list, see up here, you'll start seeing names. Let's just add a couple here. I'm just going to add some randomly. WDC, we'll just do watch, ship, watch. And here you go. You start to build a watch list. And, all right, so that's generally, now we're just what the chart feature is. And let's just go right into expanded chart. All right, I'm an hour in. I'm going to pause real quick, and I'm going to come back. And when I come back, I'm going to go over this. I need to take a quick break. All right, so right now we're in the expanded chart mode, just filling up the screen, right? And so all the same functionality is pretty much there, even when the chart is minimized in the scanner, right? So you just click minimize chart. Or expand chart. And you can turn on or off this RS strip. If you're looking in the screener, you may not want to look at it, right? Or it's there. And you could do, again, you have the monthly time frame, weekly, daily, a 4-hour chart, a 1 hour, a 30-minute, 15-minute, 5-minute, 1 minute, right? And you have all this stuff. So it's easier for me to describe it here. So you have, in the top left, you have your ticker. Now, you can look up stocks that even aren't in just the screener. So, for example, we're in the stock screener, but if you want to look up QQQ, you can look up the chart. So the chart has the full expanded universe as well. Say you want to look up NVIDIA, NVDA, wasn't even in the scan results, but you could still look it up. Okay. Let's go to light here. All right. So also compare. Say you want to compare. Hit compare percentage, and I want to compare light to SNDK, and it gives you the comparison in the top left from the left of the chart to currently where it's at. So like light's up 148%, SNDK, and as you scroll over, you'll see this change. So say you want to look since, let's go since the kind of the June breakdown here. And you'll see both are down, right? Say you wanted to scroll way out to, beginning of the year or whatever. It'll show you the change percentage. Now say you want to compare on a different pane, right? Because it gets kind of messy that way. Click pane. And SNDK, and it will show you kind of the difference in comparison, right? I already showed you the time frames here. Now indicators. This, what you originally see up here is the ribbon that I look at. Like, I get it. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of what are the best moving averages to use and simple moving averages. I went down in my earlier years down the indicator rabbit hole. And I've come to realize, like, that it doesn't really make a huge difference. Like, I understand, like in William O'Neill and them, or IBD, Market Surge, they use the 21 EMA. It's a great EMA. You're not going to see much of a difference between the 20 simple moving average and the 21 EMA. But if you want your own moving averages in your own color scheme, completely fine. Turn this off and click SMA here, and then, settings, and put your length, like, say you're a real short-term trader and you want to look at the 5-day right here, 5-day, and you want different colors, you want different widths, you want dash, dotted, whatever. And you can set that up. And so you could do that with simple moving averages and exponential moving averages. But if you're used to seeing what I'm normally seeing in the chart size share, just MTS MA ribbon, you can turn it on. You can even individually just go up here and just turn off, because it gets noisy with all of them on, right? So I'm going to shut off the 10 and 20 day. And then at times when I zoom really in, I might want to look at those shorter term moving averages, turn them back on here. All right, so you could do that. RS line. Now, the RS line is different than what you see in TradingView. TradingView doesn't have the ability, they don't have the database to Market Surge or to my software and to be able to see the RS rating. So you could create an RS line, and I share the RS line as a TradingView indicator, but it's not going to have the RS rating. So what this is an RS line, right, with the actual RS rating from the scanner, not from the chart, which is what Market Surge and IBD does. So that's, to me, way more beneficial. And now you have kind of the RS line here above with the RS score. That's the default on the RS score is to the 1 year for everything. Now, if you want to change the RS rating, I give you that functionality. Just go within indicators, hit settings on RS line, and comparison range, you can kind of change the range. I don't have the custom range yet. I will get to that, but you have all these different time frames, probably more than any other platform will really give you. All right, so there's your RS line. We then have our ATR MA extension, which is one of the best tools that I've seen, that I have used in kind of giving me an idea of when to sell into strength, or to give me an idea that again, nothing happens 100%, but it's, sometimes you get an ATR MA extension, the stock just keeps running. So always prioritize price action and what price action is doing. But a lot of times it goes off, and shortly after we get a correction or a pullback. And so it is a really good indicator to kind of follow. So we have that. And, we saw that with, XLK and a lot of the semiconductors. We were getting, we had a little pullback and then ran higher, and then we went into the correct. It was really useful. SOXX. Maybe a little less useful. Even, I think, the NASDAQ 100, I went back through history. It was one of the only times in the last 20 years we got this signal on the NASDAQ 100. It was pretty wild. All right. So we have that, so you can add that on there. MTS volume. If you want regular volume, then just in here, use standard volume coloring. So the MTS volume is slightly different in that regular volume will just match the color of the bar. But I want to match, for example, right here on SNDK, the bar is red because it's closed slightly below where it opened. But we had a big gap up. Here was from yesterday's high, and we went higher, right? And so I have the bar green on volume because I want the volume to match. Did we go higher from the prior day, right? That's just my preference. If you want it to match the actual bar, then just in settings, use standard volume, and look, now the volume's red. Okay? So that's just your standard volume. I'm going to do position sizing indicator last because it's got a lot in there. Same thing with VDU. That's kind of a new thing I'm testing. Your Donchian channels. This is, Donchian channels are big with a lot of systematic traders. Like if you read about the turtle traders and their system, they're pretty much buying breakouts on the 55-day, kind of that's the green line, the upper Donchian with a trailing stop at the 20, right? And so they would enter on a breakout here and they ride it until they had a break below, and then they would also have other risk management like an ATR initial kind of stop with it. But I have this in here because some people, once you kind of really have been in a trade, you sold some into strength, you rose the stop to break even, and some people want to give a trade a lot more room to really squeeze most of the trend, just like the trend followers. And a lower Donchian is an excellent method. And it automatically opens on a 55.20. And because the two systems the turtle traders used was a 55.20 and a 20.10, I believe. But you can change however tight you want this based on whatever ticker and asset. So say, just hit settings. Say you want to have it run tighter, and you can set a 10. And you can almost use it as, in a way, like a trailing stop. And just a trend following kind of tool. ATR trailing stop, if you prefer that, you can turn this on. You can go in here and set the settings. Do you want your ATR period to be different than the standard 20? Do you want a 14-day? Do you want it longer? The multiplier, usually the standard's 2 or 3. Say you want to set higher or lower, you can do that in here. 2 will give you a much tighter ATR stop. It also depends, again, it all depends on what you're trading, like the actual ticker as well. There we go. Next, I'm going to go over, let me go to a blank chart here. Okay. This is to kind of show, we go to an intraday chart. So let's go down to a 30-minute intraday chart. You see how we have the daily dividers here where the open is to the actual close. This is just showing us the actual days range, those little dividers. So you could turn that on or off. It's not even that dark. Extended hours, if you want to see extended hours, just like TradingView, you want to see pre-market, after-market. Actually, correction, this is pre-market. This is aftermarket. So we have that. You also have the different, you can turn the bands on or off. So if you don't like the bands, but you want pre and after hours on there, you can do that. And then EPS arrows. So for example, let me see here. You got to go to back to the daily. It only shows up in the daily, weekly, monthly charts. You have these little EPS arrows. Do you see how it says right here? The earnings pretty much matches, the last quarter. You see that 1368 right down here. It all pulls it from the scanner. And that's it. That's all we got for indicators right now. Why? It actually doesn't cost me much or anything to add all the others because you really don't need anything else. And 2, I'm not trying to become a charting platform, right? Like I still have TradingView. My 2 favorite, was TradingView as a charting platform and Market Surge for my screening for everything. And so I basically merged the 2. This is not exactly a TradingView chart, but very similar, right? Because that's what I mirrored it off of. I like TradingView charts. And but I liked Market Surge and IBD for scanning and screening with all the fundamentals and growth stocks. And I did use at times some other screening tools, but I pretty much put those in here. And so that's all I use. So maybe in the near future, I'll add some other indicators just for everyone else. I just didn't want this to become too cluttered. So this is what we got right now. All right, drawing tools. I have a measure tool right here. So the measure tool right here, you just click, drag, and then click again. And just like TradingView, you know, the second you click on the screen elsewhere, it'll disappear because that's for quick measurement. Now you go down to trend tools, pin measure, that'll stay on the screen. Where now if you click off, it stays there. All right. If you want to delete your items, you should be able to just click on it and hit delete button, or right click, and then this will pop up and delete. So that's measure. Right here we have our standard brush and highlighter. So you can just brush. Now that you have to hold down. So the second you let go, it goes back to the pointer. I'm trying to see what I like. And again, you could click on it. With the little hand, delete it. Or this is a little finicky. See how the little hand shows up? Delete. Or you can just clear. That's what I do. Just go up here, confirm clear. You have a highlighter. We have now drawing tools, trend line. I'm playing around with this. Your feedback is greatly appreciated. If you guys want it more like the measure tool where you can just click and keep doing it until you hit the pointer. But right now you have to drag. So you hold the mouse down, and then when you let go, it stops, and that's where it is. Now you can go back and move it, but that's about it. You can't change the angle or anything. And then another thing is you can put the hand on there and just hit delete on your keyboard, and it'll delete. So I'm not going to go through all these. We have all the basics: horizontal line, the ray. We have a vertical line, crosshairs, all the basic, an arrow. All the basic drawing tools that I used. So if there's more that you use that I don't have, you have path, where you click. So this one you click, and it'll stop until you hit enter, just like TradingView. All right, text, note, looks a little different. You can put the note here, like, hey, you want to highlight volume down here. Low volume. Hit enter. Once you hit enter, you can drag and drop and move this however you want. All right. And that text does the same thing. All right, now we have our, looking for our risk reward, right, with long and short position. I'm still working on this. It's not as pretty as I'd like it to be, but set it there. Put, I'm going to set my stop right below the handle here. See how I have this tight area, low volume. The MU example I show everyone. Best trade of the year, in my opinion. Maybe not on the performance percentage, but based on giving us such a nice low risk, high reward entry with this nice, right below a technical area. We didn't have to use the low of the day or the low in here. You could have. Gives us, a nice kind of tight stop. And then look, drag this up. I mean, however you want to do it. Or even here, when you get this first pullback area, shows you kind of like a risk reward. There it is, 7.82 is here's your risk reward. And you got the same for shorting. You also have an eraser tool you can use. Also, let's add some stuff just so I can kind of show you, horizontal line. Let's add a horizontal ray. Now, say you want to you want to keep your drawings on there, but you just want to hide them. That's what this first button is. Bring them back so you don't have to delete everything. Show your drawings. And this is for indicators, same thing. So even though you can kind of control this up on the indicator, also this bar, right? Remember what I said? You can kind of turn on and off individual kind of indicators. Let's say, hey, I just want to hide the indicators. Boom. I want to hide the drawings. Boom. Clean chart. And then these two are like a zoom in, zoom out button. All right. That's pretty much everything on the left-hand side. That's showing you everything on the top. Let's clear this out, make it nice and clean. And then we saw our kind of panel on the bottom, right? That's really it. I'm trying to think. Oh, up here in the top right, you can save. Like, say you have a certain way you like to look at your charts. You adjust it. I'm trying to shut everything off. Okay. Say you have a way you really like to, this is kind of how I like to look at a chart. You can hit up here, save zoom, and every time you go to different charts, it'll kind of save this format for you. Okay. This is for a log chart, right? Or if you want a linear chart. Also, this is showing your earnings, a little E here or not. Last thing, this is the last thing, layouts. So I used to use this big when I used to day trade, and when I was, or if I'm doing real intraday precision type trades, kind of like what I showed you with, like where I'm entering intraday, but I still want to be able to see the context of the higher time frames. Or even if you're, honestly, if you're a real looking at even day traders, they may look at multiple time frames, like a 5-minute chart, a 15-minute, and an hourly chart. So this is how you can look at multiple charts on multiple different time frames. So like on the right, we have MU on a weekly chart, and on the left, we have MU on a daily chart. And same thing, you can sync the symbol, or you can do uncheck that, and you can do different symbols, right? So like I want to just compare MU and SNDK, and I want SNDK to be on the daily, MU on the daily, whatever. And so you can do that. We also have where you can go three charts. Let me sync the symbols right now just to keep this simple. You can even sync the intervals, right? That saying all 3 charts are the same time frame, but maybe different symbols. However, I mean, all different ways to do this. Now we're looking at MU. This far right's the weekly, the center's the daily, and say the far left is a 30-minute chart. You know, so that you can help find, entries coming in maybe off from the lows. And you're looking for more of a intraday entry, so you can do that. Or say you just want to, say you set up on 2 screens. You have momentum trading strategy, you have the software on another screen, and you can have multiple browsers open of the same software, right? So say I just want to be able to see, my 4 favorite stocks that I'm watching right now on a separate screen, all on the same time frame. Let's sync this all up. All right, so we got MU. Actually, what am I talking about? Symbol we don't want. So I got MU. I'm just picking random big names from, these are not names I'm watching right now. All right, say I'm looking at these. I just want to be able to glance out on the daily on another screen. There you go, and you just leave it up. All right, now that's it. That's all we got for charts right now. So we just covered charts. Next, watch list. Like I said, there's a whole nother tab to really manage your watch list in depth, but this is just to be able to see it as you're screening for stocks, right? And you can bucket them: watch, near pivot, actionable, or open trades. We just added that, based on feedback from a few members. And so the reason why I do this is, yes, you have watch lists a million different ways. This is very personal. There's no right or wrong. But I have a lot of beginner traders on here, and I'm trying to get them used to watch is just names you're watching, right? Maybe they're extended, but they reset up and you miss them, and you keep missing them because you're not watching them. So that's what watch is for. Near pivot, I know, don't get the whole near pivot term confused. Some people, it's like, hey, near pivot is traditional breakout point, and so the pullback wasn't near pivot. Just think of near pivot as it's getting close to where I could buy it any day now. Or if you're a real short-term trader, it's whatever the time frame is. So you go from this flow to where I'm watching names, where I can almost buy them, to where actionable. Now, most of us shorter-term traders, or once a stock's actionable, you're pulling the trigger that day. But when you move out as a position trader and you're out on longer time frames, and maybe you're trading a name like Fix, where it doesn't have like crazy vol, it could be in a buy zone for a few days, right? And so that's where maybe you put the name in actionable. You just haven't purchased it yet. And then open is just if you want to, of course you're tracking them in your brokerage account, but if you want to track them in here, the names that you've already purchased as well. And so as you click these tabs, it'll only show you like watch, or I only want to see my near pivot, or I want to see watch and near pivot. I don't want to see my open names or actionable. Okay, and you can do that up here. Coming soon is I'm going to start sharing my watch list. So right here, you just see this drop down. It gives you no options. It shows my watch list. What you're going to see is you'll click that drop down, and it's going to show the MTS watch list, right? And it's basically the names that I have in my watch list are going to show up in here. Subcategories is the subcategories you built from inside the watch list tab will show up here. So for example, I only want to see cancel names. You can click that, right? And right now I don't have anything categorized as that, so it shows nothing. Also, what do you want to set percent change right here where we see percent change? You can select the time frame. Also, the RS, you can select the time frame. So it shows you, if you're a short-term trader, again, you might only care about a 3-month RS and only care about performance, over whatever, or the change over the 3-month, whatever. We're going to keep it standard for right now. And if you click on the ticker here, boom, it pulls up the chart. It pulls up the ticker lookup with the data right then and there. So even though it's not in the scanner, you can see it. Right? You see NGL, it has all this info. WDC, you can see all the info. If you want to remove it from your watch list, like I'm going to go to NGL, right click, delete. Removes it from the watch list. You can even tag it from here. WDC, computer hardware name, boom. Now it's got a tag. So then when I go to my subcategories and I only want to see those tag names, there you go. And yes, just a reminder, this is free for anyone that becomes a paid subscriber on Substack or that becomes a member. It's part of the membership on my website. You become a member, you get this. All right, and there we go. Let's see everything again. So that's the side panel watch list. Again, when in your scanner to add it, you see the little blue plus sign, add it to watch list. So Eaton, I want Eaton on my watch list. So as I'm screening through, you can hit, or right up here, hit the plus, add it to watch. Do I have a category? Nope, no categories. So just click off. There it is, Eaton. I got to figure out a way to make that. Some people don't care about adding to the category, right? So it's kind of annoying that you have to click off the screen. But I'll fix that. All right, so that is watch lists. I'm pretty sure we covered everything on that, so let's keep this party going. Panels. Now let's talk panels. Click panels, the little arrow. Let's talk historical RS. It's a pretty powerful feature. This is basically saying going back a month, what was going back a month from today. So today I'm filming this August 15th. Going back a month, 21 trading days. I don't know what day that is, but let's just keep it simple. We'll just say it's June 15th, even though it's not, because it excludes weekends and stuff. But going back a month worth of trading, what was WDC's 1 week, 1 month, 3 months, 6 month, and 1 year RS? Here it is. What was its weighted RS, and what was the industry group blended RS, right? It gives you that information. That's looking back in time. A year ago, what was WDC doing? Pretty decent, right? Now let's look back June 5th. Looking back to June 5th here. Let's go 0605 after that kind of big warning shot day. That's what it was. Let's go back to July 1st. All right. And let's say July 29th. And the market was at its lows. And you can see that, right? It was like, look at the week, look at the month, pretty brutal. So this is just going back in time. You can set whatever day, and it'll look back starting with this as the anchor date. So starting back on that date, what did it look like here? Okay? That's different than saying, I want to see the RS going from today. What's today's RS going back to July 29th? That's basically what we're doing when we set a custom date. We're saying, I want to know the RS for the 1 year from today going back to July 29, 2026. This is saying the opposite. I want to skip all the dates after July 29th. I want to just see if I went back in time to July 29, 2026, I want to see what the RSs look like, okay? So that's that. And then you also have kind of your custom look back date as well that's similar to this right here. So play around with this. It's basically giving you all different power to do some research to see what tickers looked like in the past. Unless you save, the way I used to do this is I was looking through my model books, and I was constantly, and I still keep them, and I was looking at my screenshots of when I bought Light back in late January 2026, what the RS was. I know it was 99 because I screenshotted it, I was writing about it. But if you didn't have that, you could basically go back in time and say, hey, on July, end of the month, 28th, with, let me put in Light here. With Light, all right, I was close. 98 was the RS, right? So if you don't have that historical record like I do, there you go. Use the historical RS feature. Moving on, now the next panel is canceling leaders checklist. It's not everything from the cancel, but it's kind of the general thing that I used to use in Market Surge that they had was kind of showing you, hey, does it basically pass, minimum RS, EPS sales, price above 10, minimum funds, and where it is close to 52-week highs. This is the most valuable panel I look at when I'm scanning through charts, right? I'm looking at a chart. I'm looking at the sales are growing. I like to see accelerating or decelerating. And if you want to change, like I look at it this way, from past to new and then estimates. But you can click on fundamental tab and you can do, its default should be oldest, I think, to newest, but you can do newest to oldest. Whatever you prefer. This is what I prefer. And I screen down through here. Then I screen down through here with sales. All right, and that's how I look at it. And I don't like having supervision or revision right there, so I tend to have that off, and I look at fund ownership next. But we're just going through the panels real quick. So next you have, surprises. It's showing you the last 8 quarters, because are we surprising the market with our earnings and sales? Analyst window, whether they're given an upgrade or a downgrade, and price targets, right? So we have that. Then we have fund ownership, number of funds each kind of quarter. Is it growing? Man, Light's been skyrocketing. Look at that. 400, back in September 24 to 1,100 in March 26. Pretty amazing. Then we have here institutional sponsorship, like what funds are owning the names, right? Like you have BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, right? Insider activity last 90 days, who's been selling or buying that are part of, the management, right? Like we got a director in here. We got any CEOs or whatever. So it shows what they're doing. And then general ticker news info, right? So I'm not here trying to compete with info or break trade the news or briefing.com. This is just generally, most of the time, you see a big gap up or you see a big thing. You might come to a name and you see, FDA approval. Boom. Okay, there you go. That's why. Sometimes you got to go to AI or you got to go on the web and you got to do some additional research. But this will flag a lot of times some of the big, if you get a big news catalyst, it'll put it in there. Okay. At least within an hour or two, it'll have the news event in there. So that's your side panels. All right. Turn that on or off right here. You can check on or off these buttons from here. We talked about the chart, the side panel. All right, now we're getting right above scanner results. We have sectors and industry groups. So click on sectors, right? And it's showing you the blended RS over the last year, looking kind of blending different time frames to show you where strength is. This is not the 11 U.S. sectors. That's why I call it sectors/subsectors. There's 20 of them. You can also look at by time frame. 1 week, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, the standard, and it shows you the RS on whatever period you click. Like that's the 1 month, see? This is the 1 week now. This is the 3 month. This is the 1 year. And this is rank, or you could do RS. Also, you can do custom, right? We love ability. So again, I keep talking about from the lows. And again, before I was doing this, I was anchoring it off of, again, March 30th coming out of the Iran conflict. Last year, after the tariff scare in 2025, I was using that low date, or that low anchor date. You hit the little star, it'll save it as a favorite, so you don't have to see all this. You can then collapse this down, and you get a little pill, and you can turn it on or off. And that just shows you the single custom time frame. Or you can click all, and then you can sort it. So say I want to see across all time frames, but I want to see what's the biggest performing sector, subsector since coming off the lows. And it makes sense. Electronic technology with matches, our RS dashboard, matches what we're seeing in the market overview, matches what I'm writing about in the big picture, right? We now having everything kind of lining up here. And so there you go. You can see this, and you can also see where was it on the 1 month, the 3 month, the 1 week, the 1 year. All right, same exact functionality for industry groups. Let me close out sectors. Industry groups, we've got the blended, and we have the by specific time frame. And we have our custom pill, that we created, or custom July 29th, the low. Sorting that. Look at this. Showing us the precious metals, which was popping up there on the RS dashboard as well. Computer hardware, right, where the memory names are. Semiconductors. Electrical equipment and parts, which was a big leader the last time we were in a big uptrend too. Hardware equipment and parts has been an area I've been looking at for some time. Communication equipment, right? I think we have the telecom names in there. I think, is Light in there? Sienna's in there. Okay. So there you go. You can do it that way, just like sectors. And so, again, I usually look at this. The flow, I would have gone market overview, RS dashboard. Before I dig into the stock screening and everything I just showed you, I'm looking at sector and industry group tabs, and then I'm diving into my stock screens. And then I'll come back, and I'll even come back to these, and I'll click on computer hardware, and it shows me the names based on the screen I have up here. So I have a screen, big earnings, big sales. I have an RS, screen. I basically have screens, and I only want to run that screen on computer hardware. There you go. Dell. Let's add this to the what? Dell is a name I've been writing about. It's a computer hardware name. Let's look at that chart. Look at this nice breaking out of a base from the high here. Big up move. I got to turn everything into a educational opportunity. Bottom line, huge up move from high relative strength, meets a lot of our characteristics. Then we have tightening. It held up better than everything else in the group. And now we have higher lows, kind of tightening price action, and we're kind of breaking out here above the consolidation high. Looks good. All right, back to the tutorial. And so I can do this. I want to now see semiconductors. Look at me, a list of the semiconductor names, right? And I can look at that. I want to sort it from highest performance since the lows, AXTI, AHR, blah, blah, blah. All right, so I think you get it, what the sector and industry group tab does. The far right is a more in-depth. So instead of using the side panels, if you want to see the fundamentals on AXTI more than what you see here on your scanner results, click fundamentals, and this is kind of your full, all the quarters, your estimates, your annual data, your fund ownership data. It kind of gives you a little more than what we see. That's the fundamental tab. Say you want to export the tickers to put into your brokerage account or another platform. Export just the tickers or the full data from your screener. And ladies and gentlemen, we finally made it through. That's just the RS scanner. There you go. Powerful tool, right? I think it's very underestimated, and a lot of people probably just don't know about it. All right, so that's stocks. We also have ETF screener, where you could screen for, again, this pulls almost 6,000 ETFs in the market. I have them in the back end, but I set a generic kind of universe filter on these. And so I didn't want to have all, I didn't want to have all of the ETF 6,000. And so basically my base filter for ETFs was at least 100 million, which is even too small. I should have had like a billion. But that brings it down to 1,200. So it just kind of slimmed it down so that the RS was a little better. And you'll notice, though, I got to figure out a way to weed out the stock ETFs, because some people want to see in here just actual ETFs that have basket of stocks. So that's going to be kind of something that I'm gonna work on. All right, and so this is much simpler. You have. I'm not going to go through everything, but same thing, same exact layout. You have your advanced filters. You have set up your data column and layout, your chart, your watch lists, your own screens. And pretty much the same, trying to keep everything kind of the same. It just doesn't have, of course, all those fundamental screens. Crypto, same thing. Same rank by, same advanced filters, same everything. Just more simple. And this took, I think it was 400, and it basically slimmed them down to 174 coins in here. All right, that's it. That's all I'm going to talk about the RS screener. Now let's move to the watch list. Now the watch list at the top left, if you want to turn on a chart to be able to see, you can do that. You can shut it off. You can do the same thing like the RS dashboard, go through your watch lists with the chart up, hitting spacebar or the up-down arrow. You can show the average, right? This is kind of just, the reason why I did this is some people want to see how the average performance by their stocks in their watch list by time frame. You can select that. And that's really it. You can also add a ticker directly. Like say you wrote down some tickers and you just want to add them in here, later. You can, like, hey, I want to add light in here. You could select where do you want to add it, like watch near pivot actionable. Oh, let's put one in actionable just to, boom, pops up in there. And now this is where we can manage subcategories. So this is where we're adding subcategories, right? Like you name it, whatever, however you want to organize it, you just hit add, and now it's in there. And then you can go through here and tag, like test, boom. And now you can look at, your watch list too by categories. Also up here where you see the blue button, stock, ETF, crypto, if you have names in your watch list that are from ETFs and crypto, you can shut them off. So you just look at stocks, or you just look at ETFs, or you just look at crypto, or you turn them all on, have them all mixed together. Same export button. And that's really it. I mean, you can also turn off the group by categories. And I think that's it. You can adjust your data column and layout the same as everywhere else in the tool. And I believe that's it. So, all the same. You can even drag, right? You can drag, like I want an industry group before MTS score. Boom. You can do that. And you can then save the layout. Clear all will wipe this out. So don't just hit that button unless you really want everything cleared out. And yeah, that's it. All right, so that's watch lists. Now let's move to position sizing. This is just a bunch of calculators and tools to use that I share, right, to help people. And so, if you're not sure how to position size, you can put in here, like you can see example from before, like, hey, I want to buy MU at 472, that breakout to from the handle, or I want to set my stop at that low point. That's a 7.84%. Great. It's within 8% of O'Neill's rule that I like to follow. My starting account's 100 grand. I only want to risk 1%. It tells me my shares, 27. This is a simple tool that so many people are not using, and they're getting destroyed in their trading. Okay, so use it. Hey, if I have a staggered stop, like I have one stop at 435, but I also want to set a low of the day. I don't have it up with me. I'm just going to pick a random number. I'm going to say, hey, 450. It now gives you the blended stop. So this one was close to 8%, but this one's much tighter. Blended stop 6.25, and it kind of shows you everything. So now I can buy 33 shares. Great. Now if that ends up being, where's my exposure at? 16%. I only want to be at 15%. I go to mode B, and I can set max portfolio exposure 15%, meaning the most I'm putting my portfolio into this name is 15%. It'll now adjust those shares slightly down to 31%, and now I'm only risking 0.94 on my total account. Or, hey, you already know amount of shares. I want to add 100 shares. Then you realize, crap, I'm risking almost 3% of my account. I don't want to do that. So maybe I need to back down my shares. 1.5%, better. And then once you're in the trade, you can use the trade management tool. Now, I'm going to go, this is built, and you probably should use the trade management tool in the trading journal if you're using my tool to plan trades, to manage trades. But if you're not, and you're using a different tool, or you're old-fashioned using notebooks or Excel or whatever, fine. But if you just want to use this as a calculator to be like, hey, I plan on selling 50% at this price, 50% of my original shares on this day, tell me, and it will tell you where you're at now on, total exposure and all this other stuff. It also tell you, all of this. So this is a separate video for me to go through, just talking through trade management. So I'm not going to go into this. I have a Kelly calculator. Why not? I mean, I never use it, but it's in here. Minervini's guidelines from his book on the guidelines he talks about, where he'll risk 1.25 to 2.5%. And it's just, geared off based on his, average stop distance. His is usually, 5-6% is what he shoots for. He'll go as high as 10% is his max stop. And here's his guidelines. So you can use that. Tom Baso, I have his stuff in here. I love Tom Baso. Different type of trader than I am, but we share a lot of common characteristics. And so I put his in here for those that use ATR maybe to manage their stuff. Optimal size. So for some of you, you probably have no idea because you're brand new. Well, if you have trading results, it'll pull it from the trading journal. So say you're a trader like, hey, I'm a swing trader. A lot of swing traders that are U.S. investing champions have win rates of 30 to 40%. Okay. Look up all the U.S. investing champions in that zone. So if you don't believe me, just look up all the other successful people. And so it'll take your stats and it'll kind of tell you based on your stats what the optimal risk is based on, average drawdowns too. Like based on, it'll give you your drawdowns. It'll kind of give you all that. So say you don't want to have a drawdown more than an average max drawdown of 20%, or you even want to look at like worst case scenario, and I want to be below 20%. So I shouldn't be risking more than, based on my trading style, more than 1.5%. Now, if I only want to I don't want to draw down more than 10%, I probably should be risking 0.5% on each trade. And if you think that's too little, again, there are plenty of U.S. investing champions going back to the 80s till today that are risking 0.5% on a trade, 0.7%, and they're getting 300%, super performance. So you don't need to risk a lot. But play around with this. You can also manually put in some basic kind of trading stats to kind of see what would be a more optimal size. But the best tool is Dr. Van Tharp's Marble Game. So this is something fun you can play with your kids. You can play with friends. You can just run simulations yourself. And I have preset bags, right? So I have like the guy that's got the 35% win rate, and you can see based on his trading stats, he has 60 out of 100 trades. He's got 65 losers. And he'll have 15 of those trades that basically are one hour winners. So, you're making what you're risking. And then he has, 7 trades that end up being twice, their winner is twice the amount you want to risk, right? And that's where we want to get into. 2, 3, 4, 5R is what we're shooting for. Yellow, he'll have, 6 trades out of 100 that make 3R. And then he'll have a couple outliers. Like he'll have a couple out of 100 trades, he'll have 2 that make a 20R, 2 that make a 10R. And based on that, with a 35% win rate, he has a positive expectancy of 0.57R. You can play the game now with this. Everyone has the same exact set of winners and losers, the same scenario, right? Everyone starts with $100,000. you can set the number of draws. Like, say you don't want to play 100 hands to make this exactly even. You only want to do 50 or 20. And everyone has the same sequence, and you can basically do draws. So player one, you can name them, like that's me, Chris. Player two is Tom. And each one we bet. So I'm going to bet 1%, and Tom's wild. He's betting 20% of his account here on this trade. And you can auto-simulate, and it'll run all 60 trades, or you could do step-by-step. The step-by-step is how the game's originally meant to be played. And you start. And so my first trade, I'm determining what I want to bet. I put 1%, and, I lost. But Tom lost too, right? Because here's the thing. All of our trades are the same. Like, the only thing we're changing is bet. And the reason why I play this game is you're going to realize just how much you're risking, your position size, right? Basically just how much you're risking of your total portfolio in each individual trade. Well, with the same exact winning formula, this is a positive expectancy system. Well, some will go bankrupt, some will get wildly successful where you'd be like, wow, I need a system like that. And some will be just flat. And the only thing changing is this. Bet size matters. It's why Dr. Van Tharp wrote an entire book, Definitive Guide to Position Sizing Strategies, right, that everyone should read. And so we just go back and forth. So Tom maybe is like, wow, after that I'm down to $80,000. But I gotta win my money back, but I don't want to risk that much. I'm going to do 0.10. I'm going to risk 10%. And Chris is like, nope, I lost. If anything, I'm going to go less progressive exposure. But you know what? I'm going to keep 1%. And, they lost again. But look at the difference in equity. Let's go again. And so now Chris is up, 1%. And Tom is down. If you keep doing this, you'll see kind of the difference. And you can then run simulations too. So let's do Crazy Tom with 20% and Chris with just 1%. Let's run 60 draws. Let's do it. Let's do 100 just because let's go 100 trades. Boom. All right. So here we go. And this is more realistic. We got 35% win rate, positive expectancy based on this R, and based on our actual proven system. So this has been back tested. We've tested this with maybe a small account with real capital, and we have a meaningful sample size of trades. So we know that this system works. And so now you can run a simulation on it with different scenarios. So wow, with 1% I made after 100 trades up 36%. How did Tom do? Tom, not so good. Tom down to $20,000. Go down to the bottom screen. Look at this. Tom's down 80%. Chris is up 36%. Chris's max drawdown was 18%, and Tom's is 99.5%. Reminder, this is the same exact trades. Both traders had the same exact buy, sell. The only thing they changed is their bet size. Okay, and you can do this so many times. Now, I also have from his other book, Super Trader, a 20% win rate system. I also have Qualamagi's like 30%, kind of based generally off of his stats. I have a swing and momentum system, kind of like more like a Minervini, maybe a Dan Zanger. And then I have, or that's kind of a mix of swing momentum where a lot of U.S. investing championships don't have quite as low of a win rate as a short-term swing trader like Qualamagi in them, but not quite in the 50, 60%. So I have that mixed swing and momentum. And then I have the Minervini O'Neill. Minervini a lot of times is batting 50%. O'Neill, I think in his was as high as 60%, and that was in like great market environments, right? But he was much longer time frame, weekly charts. He did not pull the trigger unless all the criteria align, very selective. And so you can play around with these different, or you can build your own. Build your own kind of basket of what the marbles are, right? Make sure it's, because there's no point on running this if it isn't already a positive expectancy system. And you can do that. You can custom edit some of the existing ones. Play this game. Then this is the result-based assumption forecast from Minervini in his book. So you're basically taking your existing trading stats and you're saying you're planning out how many trades do I need to get to my goal. So this is based on I have a desired return of 40%. My stats, you're not just making this up. This is based on your actual stats. I have my average gain is 16%. My number of winning trades is 35%. My average loss is 5%. This is telling me here that in 171 trades, I will reach my goal. Okay. All right. So that's it for tools. Go to Trading Journal. And all right, this is where we can plan our trade. Click the top button on the right, new trade, plan. And this is where we can put the symbol, the date. Just once it's, as you're planning, it's open. When you actually execute the trade and you put triggered, it'll actually move it over to where you could do, I'll show you the trade management part. And then once you close the trade, it'll go to the journal. If you cancel it, you just delete it out. And then this guides you through. I have a whole part, a module on planning trades. So I'm not going to get into this, but you can basically, I have a lot of this stuff for you beginner traders. This is important. Why track the setup you're going to use? Because some of you may think, oh, I'm a high type flag trader or I'm a cup with handle trader. And when you look at your stats, wow, my best performance is VCPs and I'm doing horrible with, flat base breakouts, or I'm doing horrible with opening range breakouts. I should just stick with VCPs. Also sectors and maybe you're trading areas that you just do horrible. So why are you going to keep trading that? So as you fill out all this info, we'll get to data analytics. It's going to tell you and help coach you and tell you what's working, what's not. And again, this all guides you through, our planned entry, our initial stop, entry trigger. This will help you not miss things. Use the position sizing calculator to help fill this out. Is there any event risk? Planning out general ideas where I would sell into strength, blah, blah, blah. Contingencies, if-then statements, and all that. And then you'll hit save the plan. It'll look something completely filled out like this. Right? And I get it. I was in the military. I was even an officer. I did a lot of planning. I understand, just like in the military, your plan is only as good until you hit first contact. The enemy has a vote, and a lot of what you planned goes in the trash can, and you got to kind of adapt to what the enemy's throwing at you. It's the same thing with the markets, right? We have a plan, but the only thing that really we know is our risk and where we're getting out, where we're wrong, right? Our stop loss. Once you're in the trade, the market has a vote, just like the enemy in the military. But what I have seen, just like in the military, the people that planned, even when the enemy threw them different things and they had to adapt, they always had a better operation versus someone that didn't plan. And it's the same exact thing in the markets. I've seen, not just with myself, with so many traders, that you will perform better with a plan than no plan. And so once I put triggered here, you go to manage now, or you can click up here, this top bar, manage. You can now pull in the trade. So sandbox hypothetical, I don't know why that shows up. Just ignore that. That's kind of like a filler. That's if you want to manually put in the stuff. So trade management here will act just like the trade management calculator. But I want to pull in my MU trade. it'll pull in the MU trade right here, and then it shows me all my stuff for trade management. So it'll show me once I sell some into strength, it'll tell me where I'm at now for my risk, okay? So let me clear this out. Let's just go back to, let's keep it simple. I'm going to buy, test is the ticker, $100,000 account. I'm going to enter at $100. And my stop's at 95, so 5%. I'm going to do 50 shares. And I'll put the current price in after. The current price is at 100. All right. And so it's basically telling me right here, we're going to sell some. So my guaranteed risk right here is $250, right? 0.25% of my account. But then let's make this higher. Let's do 100 shares. Let's make it even more, 200 shares. All right, so we're risking 1% of our account. Then say I sell at 110. No, let's do 120. At 120, I sell 50%. When I'm up roughly 20%, I'm going to sell. And I guess I'm going to pick an after date. I'm going to say 08/15. I'm selling 100 shares. Now it tells me my risk from here is nothing. Meaning, even if price comes all the way back to my original stop at 95, I walk away with a profit. That's great. Now, if my stop was further down, my risk is $1,000. If it was even further, I'm walking away with nothing, and I'm still risking $2,000. So it'll, this, once you're in the name, this is key, is following along. It doesn't just end once you plan your trade and you enter, right? We need to make sure, we also need to manage if we're adding. The reason why I have ads here, if your exposure, like our original exposure on the trade was maybe low, right? But if we're adding, we may get above, 20-25% of our exposure in a name, and that's becomes too risky. So we want to sell some. So as we're adding, maybe our exposure threshold gets too much. It kind of gives us a cue to sell some. Or as the trade's working, we're starting to, our exposure increases and we want to sell. So use the trade management tool. And then we have, since you can also link that to your plan, the ability to push it to the journal. Once you close it out, you can push it to the journal. When you hit here, the drop down, it'll show up. You see how you see the MU trade? You can add that trade here, and then you're just basically kind of closing out the price, and it pulls in all the info. And you might just have to adjust your final sell and all that stuff and some final notes. Now, here's the key. Once you add it to the journal, you have to add your trade review. This is our lessons learned, right? Like, did we follow the plan? Yes, partial, or no? What did you expect to happen? What actually happened? What went right and wrong? What and why, right? And what can you improve or learn from this trade? Throw in some screenshots, and now you're creating a record. You're creating a model book that you can come back to, right? And this is now your journal, and it'll show you kind of all your trades. This is the demo account just to have some data in here. So don't copy these trades. But yeah, there's your journal. Now with that, now we want to look at our stats. So we click on the monthly tab up here. Let's look at 2026. It'll show you for each month. This is exactly what Minervini teaches in his book for tracking your batting average, right? Average gain, average loss, your win percentage, number of trades, ending equity, monthly P&L. You're tracking your monthly kind of stats in here. And then below gives you a summary, like your average gainer, your average loss, what's your win-loss ratio, everything you kind of really need in here, right? What's your ending balance? What's your average days that your winners, your average days losers, right? You don't want to be holding your losers. That's a problem if you see your losers longer than your winners. And so there's kind of your trading summary with your monthly breakdown. Go to annual. And now we have the same thing, but for the year. And it's all our key trading stats. Profit factor. A lot of these are things that Richard Brandt, I know he doesn't look at fundamentals at all. He's just a classical chartist, but a lot of his classical chartist patterns and everything are the same as what William O'Neill looked at and we look at. He's huge on looking at your trading stats and understanding, does your system have a positive expectancy, right? So understanding this, do we have a positive expectancy? We do. What's our profit factor? We have a good profit factor. So a lot of these are things I've learned from him as well. Even though we're different types of traders, we have a lot of similarities too. And this will give you all the stats you kind of need. This is an upcoming module for the course on just analytics, where I dive into everything. So I'm not going to waste any more time on this. But there's your annual analytics. Now we have breakdowns. This is like your coaching, right? This shows, our bell curve. We want to have a lot of small losers here, right? Like we have one loss that's 10 to 12%. We don't have any big losers, which is good. We have a bunch of small losers, but we have here a bunch of 1, 2, 3 are, but we have some outliers. This is what makes all the difference right here on the right side of the bell curve. And then our R multiples, we have performance by setup. This is why we list and we track our performance by setup. If you're not doing that, start doing it. Performance by sector, subsector, all that stuff. Day of the week, holding period, and then we get some trade grades based on A, B, C, or D, because you should have graded your trade, how well you followed your was this an A setup, B setup? Why are we taking so many poor trades? That's us gambling now. Did you follow your plan? What are our top mistakes? You might think that it was I FOMO too much, and then you realize, wow, no, I'm entering way late. That's breakdowns. And then we have a little glossary in here to kind of explain some of these stats and everything. And we have some settings where you can kind of go over what your balance is. If you have some cash flow withdrawals, you can export data and whatnot. All right, that's everything. Let's go to the far right, alerts. So I'm going to go back in the RS scanner. I forgot to talk about this. We do have alerts. So, for example, AXTI, I want to buy if on Monday I like, you're looking at the chart and you're like, I like this up move. I like this little kind of pennant pattern here. I want to buy. If it breaks out, above here, 84, I'm going to buy. Or above this new high, or I'm going to wait till up here to new highs. You can then right-click on the chart right here, add alert, boom. Not just as the alert on the chart that you can see, and you can even drag and drop the alert, right? You can also go up here to alerts. There's when they go off, this will light up in red. It'll make a little noise on your computer. There's a settings button where you can kind of have your alerts go to your email, have it go to your phone, enable browser notifications. This is somewhat mobile friendly now. I mean, it looks, I wouldn't say the charts do, but it's good enough to where now you can get on your phone and get the MTS kind of app version where it basically just saves it on, as like an app on your home screen and have it so it'll send these notifications on your alerts on your phone, or your desktop or your email, however you want it, right? And then you can go in here and manage your alerts. There it is. We just added this one, AXTI, right? And at the breakout to new highs at 90.15. And when it's fired, it'll kind of show you. Now, the alerts are real basic right now. I mean, we have some, if you add a ticker here, you can also add a new alert. Like, let's add QQQ. Add an alert. Oh, we're in the stock screener. That's why. SMCI. Oh, no. Wrong ticker. What am I doing? SMCI. All right. So you could do different categories. I need it to work with indicators. So I'm going to get the point where, for example, when the ATR trailing stop is hit, an alert is fired, right? When price hits that. I'm also going to have alerts where the MA extension signal that we were showing earlier, once you get that little yellow dot and it fires and triggers, you get an alert. You'll be able to set an alert with the indicator. That'll be in here in a few days. So that's alerts. That's searching your alerts if you got a huge list. All right, let's go back. All right, so that's alerts up here in the top left. Resources. I talked about this link kind of taking you to the most recent, big picture market pulse. We also have MTS course. Now, if you paid and signed up through the website, it's on there. And honestly, it looks a lot nicer on there versus, the videos on Substack, right? But it's the same kind of course on both places, but it'll take you to the course. Education Hub. I haven't added all the different tutorials yet. They'll be up. Same thing with the articles and the videos. This is kind of shows you how I screen and scan for stocks. I'll fill that out. Eventually this will be a massive archive that's just for you guys. Trading View indicators. This is a link to take you there. This is if you want to screenshot things, and this is instructions to use the mobile app. Help. I haven't been using this. I have it off right now. That's why you see this, just because I'm kind of been busy with other stuff. But when this is on, you can send a message in here, and either I or the guy that helps me out with this, with coding and all this, that has a lot of the same knowledge and has been trading with me, will be able to answer you in here. And then that's kind of the help chat, and that's it. That's really covers us for the whole platform. So I know that's a lot. Holy crap, 2 hours and 20-something minutes, but I hope that kind of walks you through the whole platform and answers a bunch of your questions. Again, please don't, feel free to send me an email to use this help button. Substack, with all of you that are Substack paid subscribers, just send me a private message. Sure, if you got a general message for the community and you want to send it in there, put it out there, like if you're asking for other people's ideas. But if what's the worst that will happen if you send me? If I'm busy, I just won't respond to you right away. I will get to you, though. So send a message. I'm not going to be disturbed by it. I'm not going to be upset. I actually want you to. So any questions you have about this, send me a message. All right. I hope this helps. I wish everyone, a great life, great trading, great weekend. It's Saturday. It's the weekend, so I'm going to go enjoy it with my kids. And I wish you all the best. Take care.